Nicolae Ceaușescu ruled Romania from the mid-1960s until the late 1980s. His time in power is remembered as one of the darkest periods in the country's history. What began as a promise of independence from Soviet influence soon turned into an era of deep repression, economic collapse, and social misery. In the beginning, Ceaușescu gained popularity for standing up to Moscow and presenting himself as a national leader who would protect Romania's sovereignty. But as his power grew, he built a system that revolved entirely around himself. Over time, he created a dictatorship built on fear, propaganda, and control. The Romanian secret police, known as the Securitate, became one of the most feared security agencies in Europe. They monitored phone calls, opened letters, and encouraged citizens to inform on one another. A careless joke about the government could lead to arrest, interrogation, or years in prison. People learned to keep their thoughts to themselves, even in private, because walls seemed to have ears. Ceaușescu's policies devastated the country. In the early years, he borrowed billions of dollars from Western countries to build factories and heavy industries. But the projects were inefficient, badly planned, and often failed to produce what was promised. By the late 1970s, Romania was drowning in debt. Instead of easing the burden on his people, Ceaușescu made a decision that would push the nation into despair. He ordered that every cent of foreign debt must be repaid, no matter the cost. To achieve this, he forced factories and farms to export nearly everything they produced. Food, fuel, and even medicine were shipped abroad to earn foreign currency. Inside the country, shops became empty. People queued for hours in the cold for bread, milk, or sugar, often leaving with nothing. Gasoline was rationed, electricity was cut for long periods, and heating was turned off in winter to save energy. Many remember sitting in dark, freezing apartments, cooking on small stoves, and eating whatever they could find. By the mid-1980s, Romania had become one of the poorest nations in Europe. The people's living standards collapsed, while Ceaușescu and his inner circle lived in luxury. The government boasted that the nation was debt-free, but it came at a terrible human cost. Families suffered from hunger and malnutrition, children grew up cold and sick, and hospitals lacked basic supplies. Ceaușescu's control reached deeply into the private lives of Romanians. In 1966, he issued a decree banning almost all abortions and contraception. He believed a larger population would make the country stronger. Women were forced to undergo regular medical checks to prove they were not avoiding pregnancy. The result was tragic. Thousands of unwanted children were born into poverty. Many were abandoned to state orphanages, where they were neglected and starved. The ban also caused a sharp rise in maternal deaths, as women resorted to unsafe, illegal procedures. Every part of life was shaped by Ceaușescu's will. He launched a massive social engineering project, known as systematization. Historic villages were demolished, and people were moved into gray concrete apartment blocks. Even parts of Bucharest were destroyed to make way for his grand projects, including the enormous House of the Republic, now known as the Palace of Parliament. It was one of the largest buildings in the world, built while millions of Romanians lacked food and heating. At the same time, Ceaușescu built a cult of personality unmatched in Eastern Europe. His portrait hung in every school and office. The state media praised him as the genius of the Carpathians and the Danube of thought. He and his wife Elena were portrayed as the parents of the nation, wise and selfless leaders, guiding the people to glory. In reality, their family held power over nearly every major institution in the country. Relatives occupied high positions in the party, government, and economy. Romanians joked bitterly that they were living under socialism in one family. The contrast between propaganda and daily life became unbearable. The government broadcast endless reports about record harvests and industrial progress, while people went hungry and factories produced goods nobody could buy. The regime's paranoia deepened as discontent grew. Strikes and protests were met with brutal crackdowns. In 1977, miners who protested low wages were arrested and later suffered mysterious illnesses after their release. In 1987, thousands of workers in the city of Brașov protested food shortages and freezing conditions. Security forces quickly crushed the uprising, arresting and torturing those involved. By the end of the decade, Romania was a country ruled by fear, but also simmering anger. Across Eastern Europe, communist governments were falling one by one. Ceaușescu refused to accept change. He rejected the reforms that were transforming neighboring countries and insisted that Romania's path was perfect. But the tension could not hold forever. In December 1989, a small protest in the western city of Timișoara sparked the beginning of the end. When residents gathered to defend a local pastor who opposed the regime, the authorities tried to silence them. Ceaușescu ordered security forces to open fire. Dozens of civilians were killed. The news spread quickly, and outrage turned into open revolt. A few days later, Ceaușescu attempted to show control by organizing a rally in Bucharest. The event was broadcast live on television. For the first time, the crowd turned against him. People began booing, shouting, and chanting against the regime. Ceaușescu froze, unable to comprehend what was happening. The moment was a turning point. The fear that had kept Romania silent for decades began to crumble. Protests exploded across the country. On December 22nd, the army switched sides, joining the people. As crowds stormed the Communist Party headquarters, Ceaușescu and his wife fled by helicopter. They were soon captured by the military and taken to the town of Târgoviște. 3 days later, on Christmas Day, a hastily organized military tribunal tried the couple. They were accused of genocide, corruption, and destroying the nation's economy. The trial lasted less than an hour. Both were found guilty and sentenced to death. Moments later, they were led outside and executed by firing squad. The video of their deaths was broadcast across Romania. It marked the end of 40 years of communist rule and one of the most repressive regimes in Europe. When Ceaușescu fell, Romania was left in ruins. The economy was broken, infrastructure was decaying, and millions of people were traumatized by decades of fear and deprivation. Rebuilding would take generations. Even today, the scars of his rule are still visible in the poverty, mistrust, and damaged institutions that his dictatorship created. Nicolae Ceaușescu believed he was building a powerful and independent Romania. Instead, he built a system that crushed its people and destroyed its future. His downfall was swift, but the damage he caused remains one of the clearest examples of how absolute power can destroy a nation from within.